Hey, what is going on, everybody? You already know it is Wednesday night. It is prime time. Only the Cowboys show is on at prime time. That's us, 215 boys. My name is Paul Spencer. That man next to me is, what's that guy's name?
The showstopper Cowboy Dave. What's up, everybody?
What's going on, Dave? How you feeling this night? It was beautiful Wednesday night, brother.
I'm doing great, Paul. And of course, it's raining out as usual in the Delco state of Pennsylvania. So what else is new? We're all good.
I hear you, man. Listen, hey, tonight we got an action-packed show. Not much going on there. People not reporting to OTAs here, big names. But I tell you what, Dave, I wasn't really a huge A-plus fan on this draft. But, looking at the pre-draft here and what we're seeing at, rookie minicamp here, I see a lot of heads turning between Tyler Guyton and this one guy we're going to talk about tonight. I think this guy's name is Cooper Beebe, I think it is. I mean, a lot of people don't know this name, but I tell you what, this dude is turning heads, Dave.
I guess he is. I'm excited because I know he's going to be awesome for this team this year, and I'm really looking forward to it.
You know what, Dave? That's true. I mean, only if we had a person like behind the scenes to talk about what this kid is like, because Dave, I coach, and I tell you what, it's built from a foundation from your parents, number one, of how you can have God-given talent, but it's up to you to perform on the field, to take it to the next level. And I tell you what, Dave, it has to start with the family members first. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree, Paul. It's got to start from the family members, then to the sons, daughters, or whatever they have it there, because this kid's going to, I'm telling you, it's exciting.
How about if we had a way where we can just dial into a system here and bring on like a father or a figure of him? Do you think that would be possible?
I think it's very possible.
Right? Only at Out of the Box Sports Entertainment we can make this happen. So, guys, I'm going to introduce the father of Cooper Beebe, Mr. Tom Beebe, the KC Gorilla on Twitter. How you doing, Tom?
Good, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Like we talked in the green room and on Twitter, back and forth many a times. I'm a huge fan of your son. I'm a big college football fan. And Tom, I never blow smoke up somebody's butt, but I tell you what, I show my team probably your son's highlight video that I made probably about 50 times a week, because your son is the prototype offensive lineman who blocks and gets to that second level every play with a motor. So, Tom, I appreciate you, you and your lovely wife for actually having the time to make Cooper, and especially where he's ending up now. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Glad to be part of the Cowboy Nation now.
Definitely. Yes. Well, Tom, before we get started here, tell us a little bit about yourself. The KC Gorilla, on Twitter there, of course. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're living now, what you do, and, what presence you have right now.
Okay. Well, I, as you said, my name's Tom Beebe. I'm KC Gorilla on Twitter and other social media. The gorilla actually stems from my college mascot, Pittsburgh State, in a Division II school in Kansas. We were the only college, and I think the only school with the gorilla as a mascot. And once a gorilla, always a gorilla. And KC pertains to where we're from. I'm born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. Been here my whole life. Attended Pittsburgh State, played football there. Was a offensive lineman. Ended up being an All-American at Pittsburgh State. Like Cooper, I didn't start out as a lineman till I got to college. Well, he was a lineman in high school, but I went to college to be a defensive end or linebacker, and ended up on the offensive line, and kind of started that. Three of my boys played offensive line in high school. A fourth one was a fullback and linebacker, and ended up playing tight end in college.
Gotcha.
Been married about 28 years now, and
wow.
To my wife Tamara, she was a college basketball player. Met her playing co-ed softball, and four great boys, four wonderful boys, three of which played Division I football.
Wow, it's a blessing right then and there. I mean,
so talk about an athletic family.
Yeah, don't. I can tell you up front, don't challenge mom to a game of horse. That was a big.
Ooh.
She smoked.
I like that.
Yeah, I did tell her. I mean, she could shoot the ball, but don't bring it in the paint because they give you 5 fouls for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna make you remember coming down the lane, right, Tom?
Exactly.
I hear that.
I'll remember that next time.
It's like the old Big East basketball day. At that time, if you come down the lane, you're going to remember it.
Yeah.
Tom, I want to ask you a question real quick. Your son, of course, went to Piper High School. Coach Brindle, I believe, correct?
Yeah, he played. He played for Coach Brindle his freshman and sophomore year, and then Coach Pollard came in, and Coach Brindle was still on staff, but he stepped back a little bit. We had a new head coach, Coach Pollard, his junior and senior year.
Gotcha. Now, I didn't even know this fact. Your son was a 2-year starter, number 70, of course. His freshman year, he was second team All-Conference, honorable mention All-State. His senior year, he was first team All-Conference, honorable mention All-State. That's something really serious your junior and senior year. How did that make you feel as a father to see your son make All-State honorable mention and All-Conference first team 2 years in a row?
Well, it's interesting because of the 4 boys, 3 of them started freshman year on. The other one, it took him. I think he started his sophomore year on, but very, very proud. And the interesting thing, Cooper had a little something to live up to. Like I said, his oldest brother played Division I football and probably is one of the best all-around high school football players that I saw. And to this day, I talk to a lot of people, and they know Cooper's playing in the NFL, and they tell me, he said, yeah, but that oldest one, he was something. And so Cooper had a lot to live up to, and to get the All-State honorable mention as a freshman, and he worked hard and he deserved it. I mean, he was a player from the get-go, but very, very proud of that.
Gotcha, Dave.
No, that's awesome. I think that's phenomenal. I'm sure you're like so proud that you have 3 sons that are like phenomenal football players.
Yeah, actually, the one that didn't play college football is probably the best natural athlete of the 4, which is funny. But
wow.
He had designs on becoming an architectural engineer, and he said, if I'm going to do that, he goes, I don't know if I have time for football and engineering both. And,
right.
I said, well, if that's what you want to do, just be the best engineer you can be. And he's living the dream now.
Well, I'm sure he is.
That proves he has a good head on his shoulder if he puts, work first, number one. That's going to be a career throughout his lifetime, Tom. That's a great thing as well. But Tom, we talked about backstage. I have 40-some kids on my team, and back when I played Pop Warner football, we played both sides of the football. Ironman, no matter what. 22 players playing offense, defense here. Did that ever? I know your son played defense; that was his forte. But did you ever think, like, back in the day, he could play so many? 4 years basically playing offensive side of the ball, defense side of the ball. Does that play into effect that gives him more? I want to say cardio ability now to do that prior than going to college, excelling there to where he's at today.
Well, it's interesting. All my boys played both ways, high school, and I played both ways. And like you said, back in the day, I mean,
did you freeze there? You froze there,
Tom. A little bit there.
A play was, it was unusual. It's just what you did. And in high school, we were a smaller school. The boys all had opportunities, and we had people say, "Hey, move your kid to this school, and they'll be a star here." And Division I, this and that. No, they're going to be fine. I wanted them to play both ways. I wanted them to experience, multiple positions, multiple things. I wanted them to get to know the game of football, understand the football, not just tunnel vision on one position and whatever. I wanted them to understand, both sides of the ball, what we're doing, what we're trying to do to attack your offense. If I'm playing in a defensive tackle or defensive end or a linebacker, and I know how we're attacking your offense, then when I'm flipping to the other side, I know where you're going to be at. And I think, honestly, that's one of the things that Cooper's real good at, is seeing things 2 levels and 3 levels deep on the defense, because he knows, by the way the look is, what's coming and where guys are going to be and things like that. And I could have sent my kids to a local Catholic school and won 3 or 4 state championships, but that, to me, that wasn't what it was all about. It was understanding the game, being a teammate, contributing, and sharing that with the guys you grew up with.
Gotcha.
See, I like that. I like that. A team player is nothing. There's nothing wrong with being a team player, and I totally agree with that. That's awesome. It really is. That's what I teach my daughter too. She's a softball player, and she doesn't win a lot of games, but she's a team player and she plays hard, and that's pretty much what it's all about.
Tom, can you tell me about what the accolades of Cooper here? Because I mentioned that it's not going to be the first time he's going to play at AT&T Stadium. The under 17 classic there. He played. My Team Japan, basically. So what was that about? Going to AT&T Stadium and a 17-year-old playing. What was that like? Because you told me as well he played in the another classic too against Mexico.
Yeah, he played in the U19 World Championships when he was either 16 or 17.
Wow.
He played on the U19 team in the World Championships down in Mexico City, and that's the funny thing. My boys have done and achieved so much. They've taken me places I'd have never gone by myself. Places that I'd always want to be. I mean, the oldest one played Big Ten football. We went to the Big House. Went to Ohio State, went to Penn State, places like that. K-State, I got to experience Mississippi State. I mean, going down there, But back to your original point. So Cooper is now 3-0 at AT&T Stadium. He had, like you said, played in the International Bowl down there, and they won that. And then the Big 12 championship. The other game. What was? I'm trying to think what the other game. But he is 3-0 now in AT&T Stadium.
Well, we're off to a good start. From 8-0 last year, I think we'll be okay with Cooper playing center this year, which we'll talk about, of course, definitely.
The other game, we played Stanford in the opener. It was supposed to be a home game. We moved it down to AT&T Stadium, played Stanford. And
okay. Gotcha.
I walked them down there pretty good.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of, going from high school here, he was a 2-star recruit coming out of high school, as we talked about, green room, 6'3", 305, natural size, great talent. But
6'4".
Well, now 6'3", Dave.
All right. Okay.
High school. He grew an inch, Dave.
Gotcha. Okay.
Going back there, only being a 2-star recruit. And, like I said earlier, we're in the green room, Kansas State, Kansas, and Minnesota were the 3 scholarships that he received. First, why Kansas State? Kansas Jayhawks, also kind of home team as well. Why Kansas State, Tom?
Yeah, the interesting thing, KU is only about 25 minutes down the road. Really close, easy to get to, things like that. They've struggled somewhat in football while he grew up. K-State's had a better track record in football. He had a lot of close friends, family, things like that. His older brother went to K-State to become an engineer. I think that felt like home to him. And I think once he got that offer from K-State, and the interesting thing, you talk about it being a 2-star recruit, the rivals rated him as a 2-star, as a defensive lineman. That's what he really wanted to play. That he had his sights set on playing defensive tackle in college, and those were the 3 offers he got were at defensive tackle. Had he wanted, to go in and with his eyes open and realize he was going to be an offensive lineman, he had some other possibilities that I know he would have ended up with additional offers. As we talked about, several other schools said, hey, if he's interested in offensive line, we have an offer for him.
And you said Notre Dame?
Yeah, Notre Dame, Iowa, and Stanford all expressed interest. He had a number of schools, and it was funny. His older brother went to Minnesota, so he had the Minnesota offer. He camped up there. We had the KU offer, and then K-State. They all came rapid fire right at about the same time. Once he got the K-State offer, I'm pretty sure that's where he was set on going, and really didn't have a real interest in chasing offers.
Gotcha. Well, I tell you what, the only downfall so far that I heard of Tom, I wish he would have gone to Notre Dame, because I do a college football show on Notre Dame every Saturday coming up, and I probably would have mentioned your son about 5,000 times per show. That's the only downfall so far, but kudos to his career. The other thing I wanted to mention, Bill Snyder actually was the one who recruited your son prior to leaving.
Yeah, Bill Snyder was the head coach. Mo Latimer was the defensive line coach. And the interesting thing, Mo Latimer recruited me when I was in high school. So
wow.
That's the kind of stuff Bill Snyder had, the longevity. Guys had been around for a long time. And Mo was the defensive line coach, but Cooper did commit to Coach Snyder. And the interesting thing, we were on his official visit, just left Manhattan, driving back to Kansas City, and on the radio, about the time we hit Topeka, they announced that Coach Snyder was retiring.
Tom, I think I shed a tear that day being a college football fan, because Bill Snyder is Kansas State football. Honestly, if you know anything about college football, when you relate to Kansas State, the Wildcats, you think Bill Snyder automatically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Chris Kleiman's put a hell of a program together, I tell you that.
Yeah. Coach Kleiman and the staff. The interesting thing, like I said, he was offered and committed to Coach Snyder, but it was a situation. New coach was coming in, and so we got to meet the new coaches. And the offensive line coach, interesting, when he was at North Dakota State, had been through Piper recruiting, whatever. So I had met him before, but when he walked in my door, Coach Riley, man, I wanted to suit up for him. And here's the offensive line coach. And I in the back of my mind, I always thought Cooper would play offensive line when he got to college. And I was like, yeah, I know this is going to happen. And interesting thing, the day before he reported to campus, he was playing in the Shrine Bowl.
Oh, okay.
The Shrine Bowl. Okay.
Yeah, out in Dodge City. And so the game's going on, and my phone is blowing up. They're texting me because he played offensive tackle in the Shrine Bowl. And I'm getting texts from the coaching staff. It's like, man, his feet are incredible. His footwork's awesome. This and that. And I knew he was going to play offensive line. I didn't know until the next day that they also thought the same thing. So he came in. He thought he was going to wear 98 at Kansas State. He had taken pictures in it. Hey, this is going to be my number. And we showed up and went to the complex, and he had number 50 on his nameplate. And he said, "What do you think that means?" It means you're an offensive guard. But
pretty good.
They pulled him in and said, "Hey, we want to try you on the offensive line. We think there's a quicker path to playing time." And he's okay. If you're telling me I can get on the field quicker as an offensive lineman, I'm all for it.
Wow. Tom, we talked about in the green room. I watch a lot of college football, and I remember your son's name. His freshman year, basically. He didn't start off very well, Kansas State, correct? I mean, first 4 games, basically in the first, well, you clarified it to me backstage. I had it written down, 6 games, 4 sacks, starting at left guard there. 4 sacks in his first game, and you clarified it, 4 sacks in 1 game, his very first game. How did you feel, being a father in the stand watching this happen? And before we get into it, there was a button clicked somewhere in his head. Because after that, Tom, I tell you, 42 games, 1 sack.
Yeah. And, the interesting thing, the first game I think was against Arkansas State, if I remember right.
Okay.
And it was brutal. And I'm on the college, the message boards and things like that, and the in-game message boards and all that. I took a beating that day. Mm-hmm. I wasn't on there during the game because, I'm at the games and watching it, but I went back and I read all that. Well, I took a beating, and they told me my kid was horrible and this and that. And the funny thing is, coming out of that game, he knew he had a horrible game. And something hit after that, and he told me, "I'll never have another game like this."
Wow.
Never. And I think 2 weeks later, we were down in Oklahoma, went down to Norman, and we were just supposed to get. We lost that game to an FCS opponent. Oklahoma's top 5 team in the nation. They were supposed to kill us. We went down there and beat them in their place. And Cooper was going up against one of the best defensive linemen in the country, and Cooper more than held his own. And that it was one of those situations where I think he was caught off guard, wasn't prepared, and he said, "I'll never not be prepared again." And we would talk weekly about who he was facing, what they were doing, what kind of moves they had, what kind of technique. What do I need against this guy? He's going to long arm me, or this guy's going to bull rush me. He just made it his mission not to get beat like that.
And look where he is now.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. I mean, I teach my kids short-term memory. You're going to have bad games, short-term memory. There's another week. That's why, NFL plays 17, high school plays, we play 12 up here. So short-term memory, and that's, something that clicked the switch there 100% for you.
Well, that's the bottom line, short-term memory. You know that. All players know that. I mean, on to the next play and get the next one. That's what it's about.
Definitely.
Well, the interesting thing, you talk about short-term memory, but one of the first things, so as soon as I see him and talk to him after a game, the first thing that he usually tells me about is the 5 or 6 plays in his mind that stick out. I did this. I got hat heavy. My punch was off. This guy long-armed me, and I wasn't ready for it, or this or that. It's not a play where he gave up a sack or did this. It's a play where he knew. I mean, the outcome of the play maybe was fine, but he knew his technique was off, or this is what I've got to work on. And that's the discussion we have. And he'll approach me with 5 or 6 plays and say, I remember this play. I should have done this. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And then we talk about the things where you pancake someone. That was awesome or whatever. But the fact that he can self-evaluate, knows what he needs to work on, what he needs to improve on, I think is his key for being ready for the next play, the next week, the next game.
Does Cooper watch a lot of film on himself, like to see where he could get better?
Oh yeah. That's the funny thing is, we did this in high school. We used to, they'd watch film on Saturday, then he'd come home and we'd watch film together or whatever. So he got into the habit of reviewing, watching, and doing that. But like I said, then he got to a point where he can play this back in his mind even before seeing it on tape, and then go in on Sunday and go, okay, I believe this happened or whatever. Watch it on Sunday. Yes, it did, or it didn't quite happen like I thought, but this is how I prevent that from happening again. But the coaches said, yeah, he was a film nut. I mean, he studied a lot of film. He watches film on himself, but he also watches film on the opponents, and knowing, knowing the 4 or 5 moves a guy might throw at you. You can tell by his stance. You can tell by where he's lining up what he's going to throw at you. And I mean, when you line all these guys up, and you line all those offensive linemen up, you may not pick him out as the most athletic looking, the most whatever, but he's going to beat you with this because he's studied you. And you don't have to overpower guys. You don't have to outrun them. You don't have to do all that. You've got to get in a better position than them. And by studying the film, that's how you learn. That's how you know I've got to get to this spot, and this is how I'm going to get there.
Tom, I tell you what, I got to get you down in my camp, because I tell my offensive line, look at the defense technique. They show you pretty much a lot, how they're going to shift, if they're going to down block, what they're going to do. If you learn tendencies of certain players at that level, coaches should be putting them in a different position to have a scheme the same way, not to show you what you're going to do. Offensive line the same way. And I think that's where Cooper excels, because he's played defensive line. He understands the mentality of the second level, as you said, too. And I think, just like Ken says, great story about being open to change. and willingness to work hard. Ken's one of our hosts of our network here as well, and Ken played offensive line, defensive line as well in high school, and it goes a long way. I mean, just a work ethic. We have a 6'4", 320-pound freshman on my team, God-given talent everywhere, but the kid is the laziest person I've ever met in my life, Tom. You know?
Yeah. See, that's when you talked earlier, and I'd mentioned to you something had flipped the switch in Cooper. The day I dropped him off, and he weighed in, at K-State, he weighed in over 340. So that'll tell you. So he had he broke a bone in his foot his senior year, so had laid off a little bit of the workout and stuff like that. So he had gotten heavy, was out of shape. I dropped him off. He was overweight, out of shape, whatever. And I kept hearing reports. They said, "Hey, Cooper looks really good in practice, this and that." And I'm like, "Is that the kid I dropped off?" Because at that point, I mean, you don't know. I mean, you think he's got talent, this and that, but he's out of shape. He has work to do or whatever. Something flipped a switch in him, and I even asked Coach Riley because they were playing him at tackle, and even though he redshirted his true freshman year, at one point I was told, well, if that starting left tackle goes down, for a player or whatever, he may not go in, but he goes down for the season, Cooper's going to burn his red shirt. And I said, why play him at left tackle? And it's because we can. His footwork, he's got things that other kids don't have. And, of course, he was away from dad, and he was doing all of this at camp, and he just chose to get after it and put in the work. They cut him from 340 down to like 305, and then they put the weight back on him. And that's the dedication you have to have as an individual, because they can't just do that. You've got to do that. You got to put in the work to do that.
Tom, funny you said that. I watch a lot of college football, and I try to read articles and watch videos of certain people talk of all teams. KJ Leviston, one of your offensive linemen at Kansas State, said something very remarkable, and it mind-blowed me, really. Before practices, the offensive line used to switch positions to learn every position on the line. Why was that? A lot of us said Cooper would go in and say, I want to play center. I want to play guard on the opposite side. That shows you a lot right there when you have an All-American like Leviston, say that as well about his offensive lineman. That's something that's remarkable in this place as well.
Yeah. So interesting thing, Cooper growing up, we started him out in Little League at center. So I actually have pictures of him snapping as a center in Little League. When he was a freshman in high school, Coach Brendel originally said, hey, we're going to play him at center. So he started out at center. The problem is in high school, when you don't have – we're a small high school, and you don't have the plethora of talent, whatever, you normally stick your best guy out at left tackle, protect your quarterback. So Cooper started out at center, kept getting moved to left tackle. It's like, well, we got to have him out there, or we won't be able to do the things we want to do. So the interesting thing I knew, and even Coach Brendel at that point told me, he said, I think next level he might be a center. And even at the next level, he played tackle, he played guard, and he played guard very, very well. I think it was a situation at K-State where they wanted the best five guys on the field, and if you could play multiple positions, one of those five go down, you bring in number 6. Well, he may only be a left guard. So guess what? You're going to go to right tackle because you can. And I always told Cooper, the more positions gives you the flexibility and the value. You're always going to be in there.
Yeah, I tell my kids up here, we have a couple guards that want to play, center, and I'm like, well, if you're a guard, you're going to learn swing tackle too. You got to learn these positions because, I have a 9-man rotation depth-wise, 4 on the offensive line and step, but I have these guys as rotation players. My 6 through 9, they're learning every position because they're my swing guys, and that's something that's very commendable, especially at a college level to learn.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to be flexible. I mean, and you're that person where they rely on you to be that person. You know, where I can put you here, I can put you there. There's nothing wrong with that. Not wrong.
I mean, it worked out because finalists for the Outland Trophy in college football. What was when your son was named for an Outland finalist? What were you thinking, Tom? Because you know what, I tell you what, I probably would have fell off my chair and 911 would have been called.
Yeah, I mean, I was over the moon. I mean, to be on a watch list was just, you know, I was like, oh wow, that's awesome. You don't hear that. Well, then to be chosen one of the three finalists, you know, I mean, we could argue whether he should have won it or he shouldn't. I mean,
okay, Tom, I'll say he should have won it. I say he should have won it. I'll tell you that right now. The way your son played that year.
I know Joe Alt was pretty good at tackle, of course.
Yes.
You know, and Devondre Sweat. I mean, so you have a defensive lineman, two offensive linemen. Defensive linemen are the ones that get the stats, get the notoriety and things like that. I mean, we kind of knew the chances of winning weren't great. I mean, the other two he was going against, very, very solid, outstanding football players. But man, to be a finalist, you know, I honestly had butterflies waiting to hear, waiting to see if he would, you know, he was going to win that. And you know, we did get he was also a finalist for the Campbell Trophy. We got to that event out in Las Vegas, and that was awesome. You got the Hall of Fame inductions at the same time, so we got to see a great K-State Wildcat, you know, have his time to shine there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Joe also, you know, incredible specimen as well, Swift as well. But, you know, it's exactly how you said it. Defensive linemen get the stats. The offensive guys get no kudos, you know, put there. There's no box score for them. But the fans see what they do. And I say every game is won in the trenches no matter what you do, Tom. Those guys are the nastiest five up front. They win or lose games for you. And they don't get the respect that they should have done. I agree. I had Cooper win it that year because the offensive line, that, you know, the way he controlled that guard position was insane. I mean, he led so many back-on-back blockers to me, what I call, you know, for the second level. It was incredible. It was a film study on his son.
Thank you.
Definitely was. Well, let's talk about you know, going from K-State here, you know, going to the combine. I believe he worked with Duke, correct?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Okay. I hear nothing but kudos about Duke.
Duke's awesome. So the first time I met Duke, Cooper actually went to the O-Line Mastermind Summit the summer before. He was interesting because he was invited the summer before that and couldn't make it, had a conflict because, well, most people thought he was going to come out of college a year earlier. And, you know, he was invited to that summit at that point, didn't make it, but we did go back. And I actually bumped into Duke in the elevator at the Omni and introduced myself. And he's like, oh, I know who you are. And you're Cooper's dad and this and that. We talked, and I asked him, I said, hey, any chance I could just come over and see what you guys are doing? He's like, I'm all for it. So we went over and all of these professionals, Hall of Fame guys, retired guys, all of these guys coming together, talking about what it's like to be an O-lineman, the tips, the tricks of the trade, how I train versus how this guy trains. And there is no one right way to be an offensive lineman. I mean, you're going to play for a coach and you're going to do, you know, the techniques and things that they want. But quite honestly, to excel at this, I mean, you have to develop your own toolbox.
Yeah.
And you have to, you know, you have to perfect that. And just listening to these guys talk, different approaches to the same problems and how they attack it was just awesome. So I think at that point, and Cooper spent a couple of days with them, met a lot of professionals, a lot of Hall of Fame retired guys. I think he knew at that point when it came time to train for the combine, he was going to go back and work with Duke and his time down there. I mean, you know, he had a great season. I think he would have done fine at the combine, things like that. But when I went up to Indy and I saw him, just how locked in, how ready, how prepared he was. I mean, you could tell guys that Duke trained and how they performed in the combine versus guys that worked with other things. I'm a little biased, but these guys were on point. No nerves, no whatever. They attacked it. They were ready. They were prepared. They knew exactly what was going to happen.
That's awesome.
Dave, anything?
I don't know where to start, to be honest with you.
You think about it. I have one thing to say, but you can think about it. Speaking of Duke, isn't it amazing that a person that he worked with Duke, Tyler Guyton and Beebe and Cooper Sword, both with the Cowboys, both working with Duke. Isn't that amazing that they're taking two players out of position to move them to a different position, that much respect value on these two named players, your son and Tyler as well?
Oh, absolutely. The interesting thing, so when he went down there, I mean, obviously, I'm thinking guard all along, but when he went down there and trained, Duke's like, no, you're going to train at guard, you're going to train at center, you're going to, train the techniques of all of it. So, I mean, here is that same philosophy I've always had. Don't lock yourself into one position. Yeah. Train and learn them all. So, I mean, he was already snapping with Duke down there, the footwork, things like that. To me, the biggest thing, the biggest challenge that I think he has going from guard to center, I know he can get to the right position, the right footwork, the right hands, and this and that at a guard. To me, you've got to have a great snap. It's got to be on point. But then to snap that ball and then get to that position is a little different, a little bit of an adjustment, but it's not foreign to him.
What does he prefer to do either? What does he prefer to do more, be a center or a guard, or does it really matter to him either way?
Honestly, I think it's just like when he went to K-State, he wanted to be a defensive lineman. They said, hey, this is your path to the field. So if that's his path to the field and they think that he can get there quicker by switching to center, and don't get me wrong, there is no slam dunk here. He's going to have to work to get on the field, but that's probably, you've got Martin and, Allen, you've got all of these guys. If it's a quicker path, that's all he wants to do. He wants to play.
Right. And which is understandable. We know he wants to play, and that's great. But my point being is rather guard, center. I mean, what does he really want to be? Like, what's he want to do?
A Dallas Cowboy.
That's all that counts. That's great. That's a great answer. That's a good answer.
I honestly, well, the whole time he was an all Big 12 left tackle.
Mm-hmm. I actually have that right in front of me.
Yeah. I think he would tell you he played left tackle that year, didn't give up a sack, first team all Big 12. I think he would tell you I would have preferred to play guard.
Right.
I think if you had his preference, he would say, yeah, I'd play guard. Mm-hmm. But if it means a chance to play, he'll hold, on place kicks.
Well, question I have for you, speaking of Duke, he's highly commendable with NFL teams, basically, as a foundation, like a farm squad guy, getting relay messages. This player's good, this player's bad. He's a little slow here. Good footwork, needs a little work here. Who was the person or bird in, Cooper's ear saying, I think you better start center more active here, because I think that's, as you said, the best path to the NFL here?
Well, the interesting thing, so like I said, people thought he was coming out after his would have been his true senior year, but it was his redshirt junior year. People thought he was coming out then, and there were scouts coming, watching practice and things like that. Several of them had asked him, have you ever snapped the ball, things like that. And Coach Riley will joke and say, hey, what kind of football coach am I? He said, I've played him everywhere but the one position that he wanted to play in Dallas. But actually, Coach Riley said, hey, if you're coming back, he said, I've talked to enough people. People have inquired about this. I know you've snapped and this and that. He said, but we need to get serious about it. You need to work it. You may not play it in the game or whatever, but you need to work it. You need to have that tool in your toolbox.
Gotcha.
So he would take pre-practice, after practice. He'd take scrimmage reps, things like that at center, just so it wasn't foreign to him.
Gotcha. Well, let's move on to the night, Tom. Let's talk about that call. Okay.
That's what I want to know. That's what I'm looking for.
First, I want to ask you, Tom. I'm going to have to throw this out to you. If you had a choice for your son to go to, I mean, I know you're a Steelers fan. They haven't been true at center since Pouncey. Okay. Was Pittsburgh the first option in your head's like, if I get that call from Pittsburgh, I'm going to be so ecstatic? Where are you going to go to?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up as a Steelers fan, even though I'm a Chiefs fan, obviously being from Kansas City. But I was a diehard Steelers fan growing up, and a piece of me was like, yeah, I would love. And the funny thing is, Cooper, when he met with him, he told Coach Tomlin, he said, my dad's a huge Steelers fan. And, of course, Tomlin said, hey, great deal and this and that. And I didn't think I knew they were going to take a true center. I didn't think, honestly, that Cooper would be selected, to play center.
Right.
I was still thinking guard all along. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Cooper probably knew a little more about each team and the interests and things like that. I would have been over the moon had he gone to the Chiefs or the Steelers. But like I said, growing up, you either watch the Cowboys or you watch the Steelers. And here in Kansas City, that's all we got. They didn't even show the Chiefs on local TV because we couldn't sell out a game way back then. So we saw Dallas or the Steelers, and I grew up a Steelers fan. His godfather grew up a Cowboys fan. Guys from Western Kansas, they were all Cowboys fans. The rivalry back and forth between me and him, I'd tease him about the Cowboys. He'd tease me about the Steelers. And, but, yeah, that would have been cool, the Steelers. But honestly, going into that, Cowboys weren't on my radar. Steelers weren't on my radar. Chiefs weren't on my radar. I mean, the Chiefs told him, hey, we really like you, but by the time we can take a guard, you're going to be long gone. And, so had expectations. Cowboys weren't on my radar at all. Cooper, on the other hand, got tipped off from Duke, said, don't be surprised if the Cowboys pick you.
I heard that.
I've been fielding a lot of questions about your ability to snap.
I heard that. Yeah. Tom, my other question is, what was it like? I know your whole family was there at your house draft night. Night one, probably as well, and that Thursday night too. Was there any expectations from Cooper or yourself, or ears out there saying you're going to be a first round pick? And if so, how did it feel not going and not being the first? I had your son rated the second best guard in college football coming out, coming there, and seeing guards go in front of him. What was that like? And was there any downfall a little bit, in my mind saying, well, wait a minute, I was this, I was that. Why? The question, why, maybe?
To Cooper, I don't think any of that really entered his mind. I will say a little bit. So you talked about the first night. So the first night, all we had here we did have a TV crew because they insisted. Mm-hmm. If it did happen the first night, we don't want to miss it. And it was just he and his brothers and my wife and I sitting there watching it, just relaxed, laid back, no expectations for first night. All along, we were expecting day two, which meant second or third round. Had heard enough rumblings that personally I thought he was going in the second round based off of the things that I heard. I mean, there is a club that didn't have a second round pick that we were told was trying to trade into the second round to take him. And the trade never happened. And I kept watching for trades and things like that. There were teams out east that said he was in play in the 40s.
Wow.
the first round went kind of off the rails with all the quarterbacks and offensive tackles taken. There were too many defensive guys that slipped, and there was probably one of the best safeties in the draft, which wasn't deep. The safety class wasn't deep. A team that I thought was going to pick him picked a safety instead. I absolutely understood that.
And who was that? Who was that team?
The Giants.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah.
I thought he was going to New York or Seattle.
Okay.
If you would have asked me to lay money down before the draft, I would have said Seattle or the Giants.
Wow.
Yeah, there were a number of other possibilities, all of which, I kept asking Cooper, "Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go?" And
great question.
I don't really care. I just
want to be an NFL player. I don't care where I go. Right? Exactly.
I love that.
I think, understanding. I mean, the aura of Cowboy football. When I heard Jerry's voice, Cooper said hello, and he goes, "Hey, Cowboy, this is Jerry Jones." I could hear him, and I'm like, "That's his voice. I know that voice." And
we all know Jerry's voice.
Yes, yeah, that was just amazing. And his like I said earlier, his godfather grew up a diehard Cowboys fan. He was visibly shaking. And Cooper's got the phone up to his ear, and everybody in the room can hear Jerry Jones.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't on speaker, but they could hear his voice or whatever, and it was just unreal.
Gotcha.
What a moment that must have been when he called, when that phone rang and you knew it was Jerry Jones. Really, that must have been.
Cooper was a little distracted. He called him coach.
Right.
I did hear that. Yes. Yeah. Tom, I don't know if I heard it correctly, but
real quick, I have a question. When Jerry Jones called him, did he talk to Coach McCarthy too, and Will McClay too? Or
yeah,
how'd that work?
He talked to McCarthy. He talked to Schottenheimer.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He talked to Schottenheimer. One other person. I don't know if Coach Solari talked to him then or later.
Did Coach Zimmer maybe?
Why would Zimmer talk to him, Dave?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he talked to Zimmer. I think
okay.
4 people.
I just tell me, I wasn't sure. Okay.
Tom, I don't know. I watched the video a lot of times with your son being drafted. Did I hear from you? How about them Cowboys?
Oh yeah.
I thought I heard that. We're very loud and proud.
Yes.
Definitely. Oh man, Tom, I always wanted to know this, and this is like $1 million question I've never heard the answer for. How does this work, Tom? Because does all teams send you a draft cap? How does that work?
The interesting thing, we were wondering about that. His agency actually made sure we had the hats. We got 2 sets of 32 hats. I don't know if one came from the league, one came from his agency. One were the official draft caps, that whole set. And then the other one I know came from the agency, had some of the official draft caps, but then had some just normal hats. But yeah, I think you may have seen on the video his brothers like trying to look at the hats and find the right one.
Okay, I've always wondered that. Like, okay, how is this? Like, how do they have to have all 32 teams here? Something, when the call comes in, a pre-call or something there, because it's a little delayed, of course. So I'm thinking, like, how does this actually happen? What is the foundation of this philosophy here? So now we know. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, we have 2 sets of 32, and I've got people wanting to know what happened to them. Hey, do you have a Chiefs hat? Do you have a?
Oh boy!
How long did it take Cooper to really to set a reality check to say I'm a Dallas Cowboy? Like, did it really when did it really sink in?
The interesting thing, we went and played a little mini golf the next night, and talking to him during this. So we had the family and his girlfriend and my other son's wife, and so everybody was together, and still at that point he was like, I just really can't believe this.
Right.
I can't believe I'm a Dallas Cowboy, and I don't think it really hit him until he got down there in rookie minicamp.
Wow.
Got around the guys.
Well, speaking of rookie minicamp, Tom, I'm going to be honest with you. I told Dave, I was like, I like Cooper if he's a true guard to us. And I thought about it. Why would I want a guard? Because I have Zach Martin. I have Tyler Smith playing there. Why do I want Cooper here? But, looking at it now, I see why he could be a true center because the fact his scheme, the way he controls the field, he is a field general playing that position. He's learned it. He understands it. And low man wins the ball. And he is very techniqueful in what he does. And seeing him at camp, we run it up here, and I have people falling off the balance balls while just taking a free snap. Your son's mobility on there at that size is insane. How's camp going right now?
Going really well, really well. The interesting thing, being on that balance ball, is the first time he's ever done it.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I saw that, I saw the video of that, I was like, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And when I asked him, I said, you ever done that before? No. And wow. The balance he had and the hand punch and stuff like that, probably playing at a center or, it's not like you're going to move a 360, 370-pound guy that's 4 inches from your nose, that you're going to move them a lot, but you got to be able to anchor down in the hand punch. And I think he's got both of those in his toolbox and whatever. In close combat, it's like fighting in a phone booth. Sure. You want that guy in there. You want to anchor down on him and whatever. So I think the center position is a natural for him. I think he would flourish at guard too, but I can see him, the anchor he's got, the hands he's got, the punch he's got, working well in the center position. But
I say that a lot, Tom, because center is the captain of the offensive line. They're the field general, and even though you have a true nose tackle that's commendable, heavier than you, more speed, but your first hand check throws him off balance. It's all about that technique there. And I tell you what, I think your son's a statue on that balance ball, because I can't believe you said that's his first time on there, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talk about hand punch. Now, I've played around with him a little bit and been punched or whatever. Used to have the intimidation factor on him, not anymore. And he's hand punched me a few times. That he delivers a blow.
There was a knock.
Tom, I have to know. Has he been a part of any rookie pranks yet?
No pranks. I mean, he had a little bit of hazing. He had to buy some things for the O-line group, and he told me, hey, if you see a charge on my debit card, this is what I'm buying. And this
Wow!
Any of carry my bags rookie thing, anything like that?
No, I don't think anything demeaning like that. But we haven't hit Oxnard yet, so.
That's where the
wait till that. Yeah, exactly.
That's where the dinner for the O-line comes in, Tom.
So the interesting thing. So when you got around rookie minicamp, he and Tyler have become pretty close and pretty joined at the hip and drilling each other on playbook, on looks and things like that. They've spent a lot of time in the rookie minicamp, but then you get to the camp with the veterans. So the interesting thing, so he's already got some connections. Ferguson, for example, my wife and his mother played high school basketball together in Iowa City.
Wow.
Yeah. So Jake, first thing Jake said to him goes, "Hey, great to meet you. Our moms played basketball together."
Well, that's that Wisconsin connection, correct?
Yeah. Well, they were in Iowa City at the time when what's his name? Her dad was on staff at Iowa before he went to Wisconsin. But so there's that connection, and then Brevin Spanford, the tight end we signed out of Minnesota, played with my oldest son Colton, who was a tight end at the time, and so they've swapped some stories, some college stories of the older brother, and then. McCarthy, the interesting thing about him, so he grew up, around here. He's a Shawnee Mission boy. So he went to college with there's a sports bar that sponsors all of Piper's athletic teams, and does a lot for the programs and things. So he and McCarthy, the owner of that, and McCarthy went to college together, are old college buddies, and he travels every year, no matter where McCarthy's coaching, travels to a few games, and so there's that connection. And so,
wow, I tell you, there's scouts everywhere, aren't there? There's scouts everywhere, Tom. No matter where you look, there's a scout. Might not think it's a scout, but for some reason, that line could go back to this line and talk about it. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Definitely.
Yep.
Dave, anything?
No. I'm like I said, I'm enjoying what we're talking about now. It's been great.
Tom, I have a question. I mean, I know one of your son's role models that you used to pan his game after was Zach Martin. What was that call like from Zach Martin, a text message, talking to him about welcome to the Cowboys, this is what it's like? Because I was watching a video, and he had high respect for Zach Martin being one of his players that he watched by guard.
Yeah, that meant a lot to him. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't the first time they've talked. So
okay.
What's interesting, and this all goes back to the O-line mastermind and Duke connection. When he was working out, preparing for the combine, Zach was in and out of training facility a lot. So he got exposed to him. He had met him. He had talked to him. He had picked his brain on some things. This is even before this is just one O-lineman to another. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. How do you handle this? How do you handle that? Then you get picked by that team, and you get that call. Welcome aboard. I mean, he was over the moon that night. He's like, yeah, Zach Martin just called.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to learn a lot from Zach Martin this year. I mean, I'm sure Zach's going to work with him a lot. I mean, I don't see why.
What was the call from Brock Hoffman like? I mean, that's, a player that you're battling for position here. You're brought in to take your spot. Brock calls and texts and says, welcome to the club. But, this is a person that's texting you saying, I'm trying to keep my job, not willing to relinquish it. How did that pan out? Was there any talk about that too?
Yeah, Cooper didn't really talk about it, but, what's interesting, I don't think that night, I don't think Cooper knew what the situation was, just other than, start snapping, you're going to come in and compete here. I'm not sure he knew who he was competing against, who he was competing with, but I think being down there and being part of, the ongoing camps and things like that, Cooper said, all of these guys are really cool. He's talked about Brock. He's helped me. He's given me tips. We've talked about things like that. There is no, well, I'm not going to share this with you, or I'm not going to share that with you.
Yeah.
Things like that. He said it's really open. Everybody's helpful. And when you play on an offensive line, you're not one guy that's out there. I mean, you're part of a 5-man unit. You got to count on the guy to your left, the guy to your right, the guy in front of you, the guy behind you, backing up. It's a 5-man dance, and one guy's out of sync, the whole unit fails.
Yeah.
Well, Dak Cooper and Trey better be buying him dinner some of these days, saving their butts. I'm telling you.
The other thing I have for you, Tom, we're talking reunion now. One of his good friends, Deuce Vaughn, is there. You see the picture down there where I don't know how many times, Cooper has led the way to the end zone for Deuce. What would that be like, to see your son and Deuce in the backfield one more time and having, Cooper hit that second level, springing Deuce for a touchdown? And maybe we can get a Cowboys version of this picture down at the bottom now.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be all for that. Deuce and his entire family. I mean, the camaraderie they built, the friendship they built, even when Deuce went to the Cowboys last year, I mean, he talked to Cooper a lot. When we came down for O-line mastermind, Deuce sought us out. He's part of the family, the extended family, and they formed a bond when they were at K-State. That doesn't go away. I mean, even if Cooper played for somebody else, I think that bond would be there. And now that we're on the same team again, I'm excited. I hope we rekindle some of that. And I'd love to see Cooper open a block for him and Deuce take it to the house. And
that makes it even more fun. You have more memories to talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I hope it does happen because 2 years ago in the college football frenzy, I said if Deuce Vaughn played on another team, a more respected team, he would have been the Heisman Trophy winner. And regardless of stature of his size, the numbers that he put on there, and that was the same time I said Cooper should be the Outland winner no matter what because what he does for this offensive line. People look at box scores, they look at stats, and they see, well, this guy's more dominant. Well, you don't see what that offensive lineman does. Those are the key things. And so much, kudos goes to, your son because I've heard so many bad things. Short arms, less technique, less size in a true guard here. No, not speed, but you know what? It's all about work ethic, and it starts from the foundation that you laid at a young age, Tom. And I tell you what, this kid is going to hit the sky very hard, and there is no ceiling for Cooper. I'll tell you that.
So, Tom, real quick, I know we talked about this in the green room, but how many games are you thinking about, or how many games are you going to attend this season for the Cowboys?
We're going to try to hit them all. I don't know that we could pull it off with, still having a son playing at K-State, our youngest one. Kind of depends on where he gets in the rotation, and he redshirted last year. If he's in the rotation, traveling and things like that, but I believe we will at least hit every home game. The two that kind of worry me is the coast, San Francisco and New York, but Atlanta will I think we're pretty sure we're going to make Atlanta. Definitely going to be at Cleveland. We're not missing the first game. Philly's not a bad trip.
Be safe. Be safe if you go there, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Well, Tom, I'll be looking for you in Atlanta, my friend, because that's where I'm going. I'll be in the Atlanta games. I'll be looking for you at that game.
Pittsburgh on Sunday night. I'm not missing that one.
Well, Tom, you know what? We'll keep in touch because I'm only an hour away from Pittsburgh. Maybe we'll get together and say hello to each other. Of course, I'm only an hour away from there. But Tom, one of the final questions I have for you, and this has been on my mind ever since your son got drafted and knowing he's going to play center. How many times has he snapped the ball to you? Because I know he does that with you, correct? Yeah. How many times have you sat back there and said, "Here we go"?
I got it. Great question.
Meaning here? What do you mean? Here we go.
You're playing quarterback, as Dak would say. Here we go. Have you said that?
Yeah, I have not. Now the funny thing is, I did see a Snapchat where he was snapping to his girlfriend, and they were in the indoor at Kansas State, and Cooper was snapping to her, and she said on her caption, basically, "I'm Dak Prescott." And,
oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, man.
Snapping to anybody that would receive it.
I heard that even at the camp there in the lobby. I think he's taking snaps to anybody. I think I don't know if I heard it correctly. There was somebody walking by and he's just like snapping the ball to anybody that he could.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, that tells you that.
Now we know Dak says "here we go," but does Trey and Cooper say "here we go" too? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm hoping to find my way out to Oxnard so I can see some of that beforehand. But we've got flights already scheduled for all of the preseason games. We're working on the rest of the schedule. Definitely will make as many games as we possibly can.
That's awesome.
Tom, here's a question for you. I coach up here, and I talk about cadence, voice recognition from your center to quarterback. He hasn't taken a snap from, have snapped to Dak yet. He's been snapping to Hopes now, their quarterback that they brought in. What is it like, has he talked to you about, different voice recognitions from playing the starter Dak versus maybe a 54th man roster here with, Hopes now coming in? How does that, has he talked to you about that? The recognition, scheme-wise? No.
We haven't talked about cadence, and I mean, you're right. One guy could be faster or slower through the cadence and things like that. I mean, we've talked more about technique and getting to, I've asked him, I said, how is the snapping going? And he said, for the most part, he said, I've been really good. He said, usually maybe one or two a practice errant, and I asked him, are you high, you low, right, left, or whatever? And he said, when I miss, he said, it's usually high end to the right. Is that when you're moving left? Because if you're moving left and you move too quick, you're going to shoot it to the right, So we're talking about technique more than cadence. I hasn't really gotten into that yet.
Yeah, it's a big difference, playing guard to center. Your cadence, of course, which we talk about there, but your technique, if you're going to be center pulling, down blocking, shifting, it's a lot different because that does mess with your snap arm, being high or low. But you said he's usually high to the right. Are we in a lot of more shotgun? Because Dallas does run a lot of shotgun, and that's really a downfall for a person that really hasn't played center, a true center, going into shotgun role and not being under center. Is that something that is on Cooper's mind as well, maybe?
Yeah, he's really concentrating. So it sounds like, when he's practicing snapping, everything he's practicing has primarily been shotgun.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's what he's worried about. You get a guy up underneath you, that's one thing. But the technique of the shotgun, I asked him, I said, are you dead arm snapping? You throwing like a quarterback? And, so we talked a lot about that and the differences. And a few years ago, dead arm snap, you started seeing a lot of that. I don't see that as much anymore. Most guys are back to throwing it like a quarterback, and that's what he's doing. And but that's what he's worried about. You get a guy underneath you. I think he's pretty comfortable with that. Pretty set.
Okay.
Gotcha. You can feel those hands. You know where they're at.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a basic movement up and down. At an angle there. A shotgun. It's all about a lot of my center, we run a lot of run and gun up here. And when we practice, my center actually, even though you can feel the hands, Tom, underneath there, he actually, before he goes down, he looks behind him to make sure the center's away from him and basically how far he is. Because, my thing is repetition. It's going to get Cooper where he needs to be. He's going to learn that, mentality level where it's just trial and error, learning mentality, doing it constant. Muscle repetition is basically what I say. But, Dave, you have any final questions? Because I do have one more question here for Tom.
How's he doing so far? Is he having a great time? Is he just loving it? What's is it like? What's his like?
So the interesting thing, I keep asking, how is it? How is it? I kind of expected him to be a little overwhelmed.
Right.
To me, he's approaching this just like he would any other. Being in college, it's practice. It's we're working on this. It's
right.
The competition. It's the grind. It's the process. It's not too big for him.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. How big is the moment for him? Is what I wanted to say. Yeah.
It's another day at work.
I love it.
I love that mentality. Bring your lunch pail to work. I love that philosophy. Tom, I don't want to do this to you, but I have two questions for you, really quick.
I had one more, but go ahead.
You go ahead.
Is he getting along with the coaches? Is my question. Like Coach McCarthy, do they love him, or is there anybody who doesn't care for, or just that fun, or what? What's going on with that?
Well, the funny thing is, growing up, or everywhere he's played from little league football to middle school to high school or whatever, he's always had great coaches, and always had great, relationships with them. He talks very highly of Coach Solari. It's like this guy is really, really smart. He knows a lot about the position. He knows what he wants, whatever. I don't know. So when he was in college, the bond with Coach Riley was like, another dad. Coach Riley would talk to him like I would talk to him, and
right.
Stay on him, and things like that. I hope he develops that with Coach Solari. So far, so good. He hasn't said, "Hey, I love this coach. I don't like that coach," or whatever. It's all been positive at this point. I haven't heard any complaints or anything.
Gotcha.
That's awesome to hear. Awesome.
I think it's high praise because they took him in a natural position. So I think it's high praise that they have, the mentality that he's going to, go to center and be an all universe center, as we definitely need. I think that's I hate no slap to Brock Hoffman, of course, he's a starter in the NFL, but I think that was our weakest link on the offensive line, and I think we have a low man that can build that foundation on offensive line. But Tom, my question to you is, as a father, seeing your son grow up from little league all the way up to where he's at now, America's team, What is your expectations for your son the first year, and where do you see your son's career in 15 years when we call it in pretty soon later on down the line?
Yeah. So my expectations for him it is that he shows up every week and he gives it his all. He does stays within his game. The interesting thing, all through college, I think he struggled understanding how good he was. I still don't think he understands how good he is. There were times after a game he'd ask me, he goes, "Am I that good, or are these guys not as good as everybody says they are?" A little bit of both. I mean, you know what you've got to work on, and I think my expectation from him is he continues to work like that. He continues to know nobody goes out and gets 100 PFF grade, right?
Sure.
Every play, you're not going to win every round, okay? You may be effective and the play may go for a touchdown or whatever, but your hands were in the wrong place. Your
right.
footwork was off or whatever. As long as you can this is what I want from him and expect from him, is self-evaluate yourself, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and don't ever think you've made it. When you get to be my age and people tell stories about you playing, you're going to be a lot better when you're 60 like me than you were at 23, because the stories are going to get bigger.
Yeah.
Don't ever think you're bigger than the game right now. My expectation is you keep grinding, play after. If you play 15 years, that 15th year, you're still learning, still trying to get that 100 score, because no one ever does.
Agreed. I love how you said that, Tom. Your son's a testament, and I believe he can be, all pro, in the future here in the next 3 to 4 years. I think he's going to be all pro at his position. Going, as you said, being a 2-star recruit coming out of high school, going to his first game playing there, his first game giving up 4 sacks to Arkansas State, a D19 school, basically, and learning to where he was. The next 48 games, 1 sack in his career, being drafted out of position to play another position with all eyes on us at Dallas Cowboys here. All kudos to your son, because if there's one person that can do it, I think it is Cooper, your son there. I really do.
Yeah.
But at 23, he's got a whole career ahead of him, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck, and I'm so glad he's with us. I really am.
Well, I hope we're in 15 years doing another podcast with you. It means he's had a long career, and that's what I hope for. I hope he plays as long as he wants to play, and is and has a successful career, and can look back on it. I'd still be playing football if I could.
I had back surgery and 2 knee surgeries in high school. It killed me, and my son had an ACL, so it killed him as well. But Tom, as you said, hopefully in 15 years we'll still be doing this, and your son will be playing, because I want to make it a yearly reunion for us, at least maybe during the season too, to talk about this. Real quick, what do you think the Cowboys are going to do this year? I had them at, I hate to say this, 12, 10, and 7 is where I have them, based on expectations. How does Cooper play at center? How does Tyler go here? How do we look? A lot of ifs, ands, or buts. How do you see the season? Just give me a record of what you think, Tom.
I think, and I've looked at it a couple of times, and I don't know Dallas inside and out.
Okay.
I'm learning some things.
You will eventually.
I have to figure out who I have to be mad at.
Okay. Or should I relay the question to you, Tom? Will the Chiefs three-peat? How's that?
No.
Okay.
No. Wow.
Gotcha.
No, I think they have all the. That's a great program. Here we are worrying about paying wide receivers. They've never, they sent Tyreek to, Miami and said, we're not going to be held hostage. And they are paying a quarterback, but
Sure.
he's still got other pieces around him and does some amazing things. See, I think Dak can do some amazing things, and being a football fan, we're going to win 10 games just because we're Dallas, and it's what we do every year. Battling for the AFC title, that's an expectation, and that's if we're not battling it out and we're not right there at the end of the year, then something's wrong. And that's just my expectation of being, an observer of Dallas from a distance.
Now, Tom, I had him at 11-6 this year.
Okay.
I think that's fair for this year.
Since we went to 17 games, 10 wins was to me the bogey, but throw in that other game, then 11. I'm right there with you.
Now, the last thing I would ask you, I just came to my mind here. Thanksgiving Day. Kansas City. I don't know when the last time if they ever played on Thanksgiving Day. What's the plan on Thanksgiving Day now? Cooper's playing on Thanksgiving every year now. What's changing in the family here?
Well, it was interesting because through college, we when the oldest was at Minnesota, we played in Minnesota or we played in Wisconsin on Thanksgiving Day weekend. So we, every other year we'd either swing through Iowa City, have Thanksgiving with the family on our way to Wisconsin, or we would get together in Minnesota and have Thanksgiving there. Now I know where we're going to be every year on Thanksgiving Day. So we haven't really talked about whether the whole family will be down there, but I know my wife and I will be there. And we've done some strange Thanksgiving Day dinners on Cracker Barrel one year, things like that. You got to find that. We looked for a buffet one year in Minnesota, and we were going to go to the casino, and they had a big Thanksgiving buffet, but it's like a 4-hour wait. And,
oh wow!
Yeah, that's
with your big boys. I think a buffet is best in line, correct?
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, we'll definitely be in Dallas every year for Thanksgiving.
So. Tom, I have one question for you. I don't know if you can make this happen for me. I'm not asking for your son ever to hop on a show or anything. That's crazy. But if I ever get a jersey and I send it to you, can your son sign it for me?
I could probably get that signed for you.
All right, because the reason why is my birthday comes up in 2 weeks. I'm going to order it actually this week, and if that's possible, I'll send it to you. Let me know. If it's not, please don't ever think it's no worries if you don't. I don't care. I just want something because I think he's probably going to be one of the most dominant players. I'm not saying that because you're on the show. I watch a lot of college, Dave. You know that, and when I said Cooper is my second-rated center, and since Jackson Powers didn't go, our guard moving over, why not go get him? I think he could play it. And last year, Tom, I got all 3 draft picks, 1, 2, and 3 on our draft board. This year, your son was the only one I got right. I still am puzzled by Nealon, honestly, going second round over your son. I don't know about that one, but I hear great things about him too.
Oh, I think he's going to be better than some people think.
I think so too. I've been seeing a lot of film on him, going back and watching it, going from a low school, but the Western, his motor is insane, and I think technique-wise, he'll fit in pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, once again, where can everybody find you? I know KC Grill on Twitter there. Do you have anything going on, with anything that you're working on that we can give you a shout out as well?
No, I mean, here locally, I work with the local Optimist Club, Hyper Optimist Club. We raise money for giving back for youth.
Great.
Sports programs, non-sports programs. I mean, we're sending the middle school FCCLA to nationals up in the state of Washington here in a few weeks. But we raise money. We give scholarships, four scholarships to graduating seniors. We put on golf tournaments. Youth, I help run the youth basketball league. That we raise money. We give it all. Everything we raise, we give back to the youth bikers.
Love it. Tom, if you can actually send me that link, we'll put that on our page too to try to get our viewers to acknowledge that as well. Definitely do that for it. We always like to pay it forward. Here,
absolutely,
anything we can to help out because it's all about our future of our kids. Other people's kids to set the precedents of what we're going to do in the future. So it's all up to them, and we started for them. It's how they accept it and move forward with it. So I like to set that for you as well.
Oh, absolutely, I appreciate it.
Hey, Tom, I have one more question for you.
Okay,
we've been saying that for a half hour already.
I know. I can't tell myself. How often does Cooper call home?
More text than anything. Well, so this is what Cooper did for me. So for Christmas, he bought me a PS5.
Nice.
So we talk, and if I wasn't on the on this with you guys tonight, I'd be on talking to him online. So we talk, hey, how was practice today? How was this? How was that?
Right.
We get on and grind on some of the games. So he is actually part of the Kansas City Pioneers, which is a professional. They have a professional gaming company. His one of his best buddies growing up, they played football together, grew up and played youth sports and all of that. He formed the Kansas City Pioneers and is the CEO of that company now.
Nice.
Cooper's kind of like an honorary member or whatever. So Cooper will be back in Kansas City here in a few weeks and is throwing out the first pitch at a Royals game.
Wow.
It's gaming night. The Kansas City Pioneers are there, and they asked Cooper to throw out the first pitch.
Tom, what game do you play?
Well, Call of Duty.
Send
there you go.
Send me your gamer tag. We will be up all night playing Call of Duty, Tom.
I'm horrible, as the boys will tell you, but
oh my!
I just started playing online with them at Christmas time. But we're doing Red Dead Redemption 2 right now.
Oh, okay.
So, and tonight the boys started here's what's funny is, so me and the 4 boys will get on together, and so I get to talk to my boys every night. We may not pick up the phone and call, but we're online and we're talking and giving each other, a hard time, and it keeps us close. And Cooper bought that for me for Christmas, so he said, "Dad, we can talk every night." Mom texts him, mom calls him, this and that. Dad talks to him online.
So how's Mom taking all this in? I mean, what's her reaction to all this? I mean, Cooper being a Cowboy and all.
Oh, she's stoked. I mean, quite honestly, with everything we have, there is no better place for him to be than Dallas. I mean, there's a flight every hour to Dallas. Right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In and out. I mean, the heart of Big 12 country, where we still have Big 12 football going on. She loves Texas, not just Dallas, but the state of Texas.
Right.
We would go on vacations with the kids when they were younger. That's where we went, somewhere in Texas.
Gotcha. Well, Tom, I want to say thank you for hopping on here with almost an hour and a half. I really appreciate you. You've taught me a lot about it, growing up and listening to you, how you've, set the path for your kids and how they, took the weights there and just take on with it and go to the gym every day with their lunch pail. Thank you for, as I said, for having a wonderful family and setting that for your son there. And what better way to end up with America's team here with the Star Force, Dallas Cowboys. I am so happy that he's here. I really am. And please don't be a stranger, Tom. Anytime you want to hop on, let us know. Like to have you on maybe a couple times during the season if we could do that too, and talk about what we can do. Maybe we can critique your son a little bit. 2 fathers that critiquing their son. How's that?
Absolutely. I'm sure he's used to it.
I hear you. Coming from you, I think he would be, because you played it, you understand it, and that goes a long way when they hear their father critique them. One that says you did this wrong. You had this. I like how you said. They might have scored a touchdown, but your hand movement, you might have missed a block, you might have down blocked, and you're supposed to do, this or that. I love how you said that too, because there's always something that goes underlooked. And when you see that underlooking and you learn from it and take it to another level, maybe that 15th year, he'll be the first one in NFL history to get that 100 PFF level. Keep working.
The key is to stay humble.
Yes.
You've always you're not going to be perfect. There's always something you can do better. Stay humble. When you think you've arrived, that's the time to step away from the game.
Agreed 100%. Tom, I thank you. Out of the Box Sports Entertainment thanks you. Give your son our prayers, and recommendation, because we know he's going to be all universe right next to one of his idols, Zach Martin, of course. So he's going to write, he's right movement there, and what better way with the America's team.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Tom, thank you so much for having you coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And good luck to your family, and good luck to Cooper. We really wish him all the best. And thank God he's a Cowboy.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
So, guys, this is the 215 Boys. My name is Paul Spencer. That is Dave Yarnell. And that is Tom Beebe, father of Cooper Beebe, the newest Dallas Cowboy, prodigy, future All-Pro, future 100 PFF player, first in the NFL history. We already know it's going to happen. So, guys, it's prime time, 9:30. We're out of here. We'll see you next Wednesday night on the 205 Boys. Until then, everybody stay safe, hug your loved ones, and stay blessed.
And Tom, we always say, go boys, go.
Tom, I'll let you have that one. How about that?
Go ahead.
Go boys, go.
There we go.
There you go.